Hello there, YouTube. This is the Rogue Gem Player here, and I'm coming at you with a Mermail Atlantean deck. I know there has been a long hiatus, probably too long in my opinion, when I really said that I would be updating a lot more often. But I had this deck pretty much ready to go, and then the ban list came up and completely ruined my days. It was literally about 12 hours after I had recorded, and I was ready to upload this deck profile when the ban list came up and completely wrecked it, where I had to make some changes and things like that. And it kind of killed my motivation to kind of upload for a little bit. Not to mention work has kind of gotten crazy this month. My schedule hasn't been consistent, though that should be correcting itself by the end of the month. That being said, this is Mermail Atlanteans. This is the current build. There are certain things that aren't standard because of the changes in the result of Abyss Dweller and Bahamut Shark getting banned. So we have to play other things. That being said, it's a lot more different in terms of what the deck can and can't do anymore. Obviously, making the multiple negates is not possible, but you can play other things which can help you with other plays as well. So let's get right on into it. So we're going to start with our standard 3 copies of Neptibus, the Atlantean Prince. You pretty much you still have to play 3 of it. You pretty much don't have any choice now. It is much more crucial that you get into this than anything else. It starts all your combos, you literally go into it, you use both of its effects in the same turn, and the fact that you can search this later on, search a second copy for next turn or for further follow-up on the following turn, it just helps you immensely, so you still have to play the 3 copies of it. We then play the 3 copies of Dragoons. Unfortunately, because of Abyss Dweller and Bahamut Shark getting banned, the ability to detach multiple times is not nearly as prevalent. We do have a replacement in the extra deck, but you do have to play for this version, you do have to play a brick. But I would much rather play the brick than the Stotus Giant, which can be an option if you really want to. So we do play 3 of that. We're then playing 3 copies of the Shadow Squad. You still have to play 3 of this. It's completely mandatory. You go into this, you get so much advantage off of this, not to mention it does make the rank 7 plays if you choose to play it. We then play 3 of the Bisrine. I feel like in this version of the deck, we're playing Coelacanth, so you really want to play this. You want to access her as much as you can. It just gives you so much advantage because it does snowball into more cards. Not to mention it does give you a free draw that can trigger an Atlantean effect because you do discard as part of an effect, as part of the cost of effect. And then we are playing 3 copies of Poseidra, the Storming Atlantean. I feel like you should be playing 3 of it now. Just having access to this card whenever you need to. It's further disruption. It's level 7. You know, the fact that this card says when summoned, you can send a Mermail or Atlantean from the deck to the grave as cost, and then target a card and bounce it. Is just amazing. So it's like you're getting 2, or you're going 1 for 1 a lot of the time because you're going to summon this basically for free. And then we're playing 3 copies of Abyss Pike because we are playing Coelacanth, so you do have to play 3 copies of it, in my opinion, just to be able to access it. And you do go through all 3 of them pretty much in the same combo. We're then playing the 1 copy of Heavy Infantry as our one of Atlantean that we are playing. If you want to play Marksman, you can play that on the side, but Marksman is Heavy Infantry is far more important now. For the Mermail related stuff, we are playing 3 copies of Abyss Teus. It's still the best high level Mermail in the entire deck. The fact that it is only 1 discard for an effect that gives you a search, and it's level 7 body that still gives you stuff, is pretty important. Thanks to the fact that the extra deck the main deck kind of changes. Not to mention it gives you access to more tech cards. So we are playing the 1 copy of Abyss Megalo. I like this because it is a free, 48 to the face if you if you give up a card. Not to mention it does add you an Abyss spell trap, which we do have a couple targets for, so that kind of helps as well. Not to mention it does give you access to more free stuff. We're then playing Abyss Gun. I'm putting this back. I put this in mainly as another kind of way to kind of extend, while it is a card that can be recurred off of the Poseidra Abyss if you need to. Not to mention it does give you just more further extension because it does bring back a card. So keep that in mind. And then we're playing for the one of stuff, we're playing 1 Coelacanth. one Mooling Glacia, the one Barrier Statue, which you absolutely have to still play, the one Deep Sea Minstrel. This is probably one card where you can go to 3 if you really wanted to, and then playing the Gluttonous Raftafin, or what we known as Baby Croc. You still have to play this now to make the level 7 stuff, and then you just make all kinds of free stuff. And then the last water-based card is 7 Colored Fish. So this is, it can be any vanilla that's water, but it is a fish, so it's another thing you can use with it. This will be explained in the extra deck, but you do need to play a vanilla that is level 4 water, in my opinion. And why not play 7 Colored Fish? The only main deck, or the only monster hand trap we play is 3 Ash Blossom. No Dominus Purge. I don't own those copies, and I don't own any copies of the Mulcharmies right now. So if you have them, you can play them. 1 copy of the Called by the Grave, the 1 Abyss Sting Triana, the 1 copy of 1-for-1, because getting into the Prince is absolutely mandatory in this deck. So, and then we're playing, for the traps, we're playing 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, because it is still a hand trap you should be playing. 1 copy of the Virtue Stream. We are playing the Virtue Dragon, and this is just a free Icarus attack that you can search. And then the 1 copy of Abyss Steam, which can give you some free draws, and then when it's in the graveyard you can add stuff back to your hand for basically for free. So the ability to kind of just recur something is kind of important. So now for the extra deck, we're going to start with the Exceed monsters. We're going to start with 2 copies of Poseidra Abyss, the Atlantean Dragon Lord. You pretty much have to play 2 copies. Not to mention, there are certain lines where if you make the second one, because if you get disrupted, you have the ability to float into it. There's so much advantage you can gain off of it. Not to mention that you can bring back monsters when it does die. When it does float into monsters, which is pretty important. The 1 Abyss Gaios, I now have a copy of it now from the Rarity Collection. So the 1 Abyss Strike, the Atlantean Spirit, you still have to play this because it is a recursion that is a rank 7 that generally goes into, that you rank up into Poseidra Abyss anyway, so you do have to play that. We then play for the new card, we're playing the Magic Key Spirit Verpartu. This card is the replacement for Bahamut Shark. I do not like Snowdust Giant because it doesn't do anything else. You do have to play 2 copies of that card in order to really play it. Verpartu gives you an extra card for discarding for 1. 2, it is still fits in with the theme of the deck in that it still triggers Dragoons. Yes, you only get to play it once, but it does give you free things. And then if it's still on the board, you could just, after discarding the fish, you can just add the fish back to your hand and just trigger again. So, and then the 1 copy of the Virtue Dragon. The Virtue Stream is pretty important, not to mention that it does give you some just kind of, free advantage, basically. And it's easy to make now. We then play for the links, Coral Anemone, Abyss Lacia, the 1 copy of the Mermail King, Neptibus, the Abyss Keeper to get the Coelacanth out of your hand, and occasionally any other kind of random fish monsters you have in your hand. So that's all for the links. We then play the White Aura Monoceros, because it does bring back a fish from your graveyard, so you just bring back the tuner and you can make level 10s off of it. The Prima Donna, you absolutely have to play it for the Barrier Statue. It's mandatory. So you have to play that. And then we're playing the 1 copy of Trishula. I am testing this because when you go into Poseidra Abyss, you can bring back level 3s, and you can make Trishula for free, basically. The 1 copy of the Ice Jade Synchro, and the 1 copy of Chen Ying, because we now have a little bit of extra room, because when Bahamut Shark and Abyss Dweller got banned, you effectively opened up 5 slots, because you lost both Bahamut Sharks, the 2 Toads, and the Abyss Dweller, so it gives you a lot more flexibility, but like I said, it is completely up to you how you build the deck. You can completely cut the Barrier Statue if you really wanted to. You can play other things. It really depends on your preference. So, but like I said, when this deck got hit, a lot of people stopped using it, but it is still a very, very, very good deck, especially on a budget, because a lot of the deck is pretty much cheap now. Everything's been reprinted. You don't, with the exception of like a couple handfuls, like, the you know, the Visidras, this, you know, the shrines and things like that, like the new stuff, you know, you could probably get this entire deck for like $100, like easily, and then you can kind of commit to the, you know, various hand traps and things like that. Like if you actually had that, you can upgrade to other things. You know, it's completely up to you. But this is the version of the deck that I'm playing now. I really like it. Maybe I'll do a combo tutorial, probably not, because the deck is pretty much the same combo-wise. The only difference is you're playing other cards in place of Bahamut Shark to kind of facilitate the similar combos. Not to mention this deck it's not really solitaire. You really can't solitaire the deck very well because the deck is very susceptible to certain things, but it does play through a lot of negation and things like that because a lot of the effects are triggered off of costs rather than effects, so you can play through a lot of things and your opponent kind of has to brute force your way through it. So let me know what you guys think, comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.